Chapter 613. Brother Yan, are you leaving? Yan Kuangtu came to bid farewell to Lu Ming. Yan Kuangtu nodded and said, I have seen what I should see. I will leave soon. After pondering for a while, Yan Kuangtu looked at Lu Ming with anticipation in his eyes and said, I will wait for you at the main palace for the Battle of Providence. Battle of Providence? Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. Why? You don't know about the Battle of Providence? Yan Kuangtu asked. I have heard of it, but I don't know much about it. Lu Ming said. He had heard about it from Fei Xue before. Lu Ming, the Battle of Providence is very important. All the geniuses in the Eastern Barren Territory will participate, including the monster race. Not only can you help your force to fight for endless providence, but you can also help yourself to fight for great providence. With your talent, you might be able to stand out in the Battle of Providence. Back then, I also participated in the Battle of Providence to achieve what I have today. Yan Kuangtu explained. You can fight for providence? Lu Ming was a little shocked. Providence, isn't it just like luck? It's innate. It's mysterious. How can you fight for it? Of course. Yan Kuangtu nodded and said, there is a saying, man can conquer nature. Luck also depends on the man. Therefore, providence can also be fought for. Talent, hard work, resources, and perseverance are very important for a martial artist. However, providence is also very important. Only those with great luck can become peak experts. Your luck is not weak, but if you don't participate in the battle of luck, you will be pulled apart by the other geniuses. From then on, you will be reduced to a foil, unable to become the bright star of this era. In the future, it will be difficult for you to become a peak expert of the continent. Therefore, this time, all the geniuses in the Eastern Barren Territory will participate. No one will miss it. The Battle of Providence? Lu Ming was looking forward to it, but he was a little hesitant. Because the Battle of Providence required him to go to the headquarters of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. That would be too close to Martial Emperor De. Would the Nine Dragons bloodline be sensed? Also, if he represented the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace in the Battle of Providence, it would be equivalent to helping the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace fight for great providence. Luck was also extremely important to a large faction. If a faction was lucky enough, they would be able to recruit even more geniuses as disciples. The next generation of experts would be endless, and their strength would also become stronger and stronger. Lu Ming was going to go against the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace sooner or later. He didn't want to help the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace increase their luck. Lu Ming, there are still 2 years before the Battle of Providence. In these 2 years, you should improve your strength as soon as possible. I'll be waiting for you in the Central Palace. As soon as Yan Kuangtu finished speaking, his figure flickered and disappeared in an instant. He was elusive. The War of Providence. As Lu Ming repeated this sentence, there was a thoughtful look in his eyes. Participate, I will definitely participate. Retreating is not my martial path. I don't have much time left. Only by having an intense collision with the geniuses of the world can my cultivation and martial path advance bravely. Only then can my cultivation improve even faster. If I retreat and hide in a place to cultivate, my martial path will improve very slowly. When the 10 years are up, I will still have to face Martial Monarch De. I might as well give it a try. After a while, Lu Ming's eyes emitted a strong battle intent and a firm will. He decided to participate in the Battle of Providence. Although he had a lot of resources now, such as a pile of profound crystals, his cultivation would improve very quickly. That was only for Martial Kings. After breaking through Martial Kings and reaching the Spirit Sea realm, the resources he would need would be even more terrifying. The resources he had were not enough. The higher his cultivation, the harder it would be to improve his cultivation. The resources he would need would be even more terrifying. He wasn't going to be blinded by this little achievement in front of him. After making up his mind, Lu Ming no longer felt pressured. He only felt an indomitable sharpness. Then, he continued to cultivate. One day later, in a hall of the Sheng clan, Sheng Song, Sheng Xingchen, Shengguan Wuchen, and Shengguan Wuling sat. After 2 days of cultivation, Sheng Xingchen's injuries were much better. He was almost fully recovered. Damn it, that little bastard deserves to die, and that Yan Kuangtu deserves to die too. Shengguan Wuling screamed with murderous intent. She was slapped by Yan Kuangtu in public, which almost drove her crazy. Her murderous intent was extremely strong. Little sister, Yan Kuangtu is not someone we can provoke. Even the old ancestor is no match for him. It's better not to say such things. Shengguan Wuchen said beside her. Second brother, are we just going to let it go like this? Shengguan Wuling said. Of course not. We can't deal with Yan Kuangtu, but we can't let that little bastard Lu Ming go. Shengguan Wuchen's eyes flickered with murderous intent. Yes, it's all that little bastard's fault. It's all his fault. If it weren't for him, things wouldn't have turned out like this. Shengguan Wuling was filled with murderous intent. Since she couldn't deal with Yan Kuangtu, she could only vent all her anger on Lu Ming. There are only 2 years left until the Battle of Providence. At that time, there will be plenty of opportunities to kill that little bastard. Shengguan Wuchen said coldly, then looked at Xing and said, Xing, come with me to the main palace to cultivate. It's best that you take revenge by cutting off Lu Ming's head. I will cut off his head myself. Xing's eyes were extremely cold as he clenched his fists. Let's go to the main palace together. Anyway, there are only 2 years left until the Battle of Providence. At that time, we will definitely go. Sheng Tsang said. Okay, then let's go to the main palace together. Shengguan Wuchen nodded. In the blink of an eye, the 3-day deadline with Elder Huang had arrived. Lu Ming left the courtyard and went to Elder Huang's residence. Elder Huang. Walking into the courtyard, Lu Ming called out softly. Whoosh! A figure appeared in front of Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, you're here. The spear you wanted has been refined. Take a look. Elder Huang took out a spear and threw it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming reached out and caught it. It's so heavy. When Lu Ming caught it, he felt that it was incomparably heavy. It weighed more than 1,000,000 pounds. Of course, with Lu Ming's current strength, there was no pressure to use it. Lu Ming looked at it carefully. The blood-red spearhead was made of indestructible steel. It was well-defined and gave off an indestructible feeling. The body of the spear was dark red, mainly made of 1,000 refined blood gold. There were some strange patterns engraved on it. There were also some black dots scattered all over the spear. Lu Ming took a liking to her at first glance. Buzz! Lu Ming injected his true yuan and waved it slightly. The spear vibrated, causing a wave of air. Lu Ming, the tip of the spear is forged from indestructible steel. It is sturdy and indestructible. As for the body of the spear, it is mainly made of 1,000 refined blood gold and contains infinite black gold. In the future, as long as you have precious metals, you can refine them, and this long spear will continue to evolve and upgrade to a higher level spirit weapon. Chapter 614. Many thanks, Elder Huang. Lu Ming was already very satisfied. He kept his spear and expressed his gratitude to Elder Huang. Go. I've benefited a lot from studying your broken spear this time. I'm going to enter seclusion and comprehend it well. Elder Huang waved his hand. Lu Ming nodded and bowed. He then left and returned to his courtyard. With a move of his hand, a dark red spear appeared. Lu Ming began to brandish it. The spear was like a dragon, dancing in the air. The entire sky was filled with resplendent spear light. After a while, Lu Ming kept his spear and stood there. It's indeed a good spear. The circulation of true origin energy is extremely smooth. Moreover, I can erupt with true origin energy as much as I want. It's very helpful for me to unleash my strength. Lu Ming was very satisfied. With this spear, Lu Ming's battle prowess had increased again. Let's give this spear a name. What should I call it? Since it's based on the infinite black gold and can evolve infinitely, I'll call it the Infinite Spear. No, the Infinite Dragon Spear. Yes, this name sounds good. Lu Ming muttered. He looked at the spear in his hand and grinned. So fucking cliché. Dandan said in disdain. Hey, are you itching for a beating? How is this cliché? The Infinite Dragon Spear is so domineering. Lu Ming brandished the spear in his hand. It's just an upper grade level 6 spirit weapon. Ming has just passed the refinement. What's there to be happy about? I've already said that the old man's skills are bad. The materials used were good, but they were ruined by him. If it was me, TSK, hey, why are you looking at me like that? I'm a guy, and my hobbies are normal. I don't have any bad hobbies. Dandan began to boast shamelessly again. As it spoke, it saw Lu Ming looking at it with a burning gaze. It was so scared that its head immediately shrank back into its shell, leaving only its mouth open to mutter. Lu Ming carefully sized up Dandan. His eyes turned and he said, Dandan, you always say that you're a peerless expert, the head of the 10 strongest beasts. Since you're so powerful, teach me some peerless martial arts. For example, divine-level martial arts. How about giving me 8 or 10 books? So you're here for this matter. Dandan's head popped out of the tortoise shell again. It stood upright on Lu Ming's shoulder and placed its 2 claws on the tortoise shell. It had the demeanor of a peerless expert. Is there really one? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. His heart was pounding. If Dandan really had divine-level martial arts, not to mention 8 or 10 books, even 1 or 2 books would be enough to make him rich. Now, Lu Ming felt that his offensive martial arts were a little too simple. Although the 9 Dragons' Heaven stomping steps was powerful, it was difficult to cultivate. In battle, it belonged to the category of explosive martial arts. It lacked some changes. If the opponent was prepared early, they could dodge it. The same was true for the 3 unique skills of the Dragon God. They belonged to the category of explosive martial arts. They were extremely powerful and could kill with one blow. However, they lacked changes. If the other party could block his attack, Lu Ming would have fewer tricks up his sleeves. This was also what he had felt during the 2 battles with Qin Qingshan and the Sacred Star. Lu Ming needed to cultivate some other martial arts to assist him. After all, only 1 or 2 martial arts were too few. If Dandan could give him a few, it would be perfect. No! Dandan opened its mouth. 2 short words extinguished the fire in Lu Ming's heart. Nestling, if you don't have it, why are you so cocky? You liar. You only know how to brag. Lu Ming was unhappy and looked at Dandan with disdain. Hey, kid, what's with your expression? I can't remember because I'm injured. Otherwise, not to mention 8 or 10 divine-level martial arts, I can even take out 100 books. Humph. Dandan said unhappily. However, Lu Ming's disdain grew thicker. He obviously did not believe Dandan's words. How could Lu Ming believe it? 100 divine-level martial arts? Did he think they were cabbages that could be found by the roadside? You're infuriating me to death. Brat, let me tell you, although I can't remember the martial skills, I still remember the inscription Dao very clearly. I have a peerless inscription Dao here, as well as a top-notch cultivation method for cultivating spirit flames. Do you want me to teach you the inscription Dao? I want you to be convinced. Dandan was so angry that its eyes were wide open and its tortoise shell was moving up and down. Path of inscription. Lu Ming's eyes flickered a little. It took a lot of thought and energy to cultivate martial arts. Wouldn't it take even more energy to cultivate the path of inscription? Lu Ming was a little hesitant. Moreover, the path of inscription was only auxiliary. It did not increase one's combat strength by much. Hey, kid, do you think that the path of inscription can't increase one's combat strength by much? You're really inexperienced. Let me tell you, none of the inscription masters you've seen are qualified. They all cultivate casually and are only auxiliary martial arts. None of them are true inscription masters. If you become a true inscription master, once you reach the 5th level, your combat strength will be terrifying. Martial artists of the same level won't be able to withstand a single blow. In the ancient times, the path of inscription was prosperous. It was the main path of cultivation and even suppressed martial arts. To true inscription masters, challenging those of a higher level is a common thing. Dandan glared and lectured. Are true inscription masters that strong? Lu Ming was skeptical. Nonsense, of course. True inscription masters can inscribe auxiliary inscriptions, combat inscriptions, explosive inscriptions, divine weapon inscriptions and so on. They can even inscribe a peerless killing formation in an instant and kill the enemy invisibly. It's extremely powerful and mysterious. It's beyond your imagination. What do you think? Do you want to learn it? I have a top-notch cultivation method for the spirit flame here. If this cultivation method were to be made known to the public, it would definitely lead to an earth-shattering outcome. Not to mention martial emperors, even stronger existences would fight for it. Dandan said proudly. Okay, how do I learn it? Hearing Dandan's words, Lu Ming was also tempted. Give me some jade talismans first. You don't have any foundation in the path of inscription. I'll inscribe some basic things, the spirit fire cultivation method, and the method to ignite the spirit fire. I'll show you first so that you'll have an idea. Dandan said seriously, which was rare for him. Lu Ming nodded. With a wave of his hand, he took out a dozen sparkling jade talismans and threw them to Dandan. Dandan opened his mouth and the jade talismans all flew into Dandan's mouth and disappeared. Dandan's mouth was like a bottomless pit. Lu Ming saw that he swallowed everything into his mouth and took it out from his mouth. Okay, I'm going to inscribe. You can cultivate in peace. Wait for me for a few days. Dandan jumped into a room and disappeared. Lu Ming continued his cultivation. 5 days later, Dandan appeared and climbed onto Lu Ming's shoulder. He threw a dozen jade talismans to Lu Ming and said, "Everything is inside. Take a look at it yourself." Ouch, I'm so tired. Hurry up, since I'm so diligent, give me a few stocks of elixirs. Lu Ming was speechless. He casually took out a few stocks of 5th-grade elixirs and threw them to Dandan to send him away. He then went into the room and looked at the jade talismans. He placed the jade talismans on his forehead and understood the contents of the jade talismans. The jade talismans contained some basic knowledge about the path of inscription, which was extremely complicated. Lu Ming closed his eyes and slowly digested the information. Chapter 6:15. It turns out that the inscription Tao is so complicated and mysterious. Its history is so ancient that it's even more ancient than the martial Tao. Lu Ming muttered in a low voice. He was a little shocked. In the past, he thought that the inscription Tao only existed to support the martial Tao. It seemed like he was gravely mistaken. The Desolate Era was an era that was even older than the Ancient Era, and the Immemorial Era. When the human race first appeared, there was no martial Tao. The human race comprehended a kind of pattern based on the traces of the world and the momentum of the mountains and rivers. This pattern was the earliest inscription Tao. In the end, it developed and became a great Tao. The inscription Tao was one of the oldest great Taos in the world. The inscription Tao could be used to refine weapons, refine pills, inscribe formations, and so on. If one wanted to practice the inscription Tao, first, one had to ignite the spirit fire in the sea of consciousness. The spirit fire was also known as the inscription fire. Only by igniting the spirit fire could one officially step into the inscription Tao. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, silver, and gold. The inscription masters were divided into 9 levels. The color of the spirit fire of each level was different. The spirit fire of the first level was red. The spirit fire of the second level was orange. Based on this logic, the spiritual fire of a ninth-grade inscriber was golden in color. Every person, at every level, had 10 spirit lamps in their sea of consciousness. The more spirit lamps that were lit, the stronger the spirit fire. The spirit fire was the foundation of an inscription master. The stronger the spirit fire, the stronger and more precise the inscription master's control. Generally speaking, if one could ignite 3 spirit lamps at each level, one would be able to advance. For example, if a level 1 inscription master ignited 3 red spirit lamps, he would be able to advance and break through. The color of his spirit fire would change to orange and he would ignite an orange spirit lamp. After cultivating and igniting 3 orange spirit lamps, he would be able to continue breaking through. However, this kind of inscription master was an ordinary inscription master. Their main purpose was to support the martial Tao. They were the inscription masters that Lu Ming often saw. Only by igniting 6 or more spirit lamps at each level could one be considered a pure inscription master and be called a true inscription master. Of course, if one could light up 10 mind lamps at each level, then they would be perfect. They would be the strongest inscriber. However, according to Dandan, it was too difficult to ignite 10 spirit lamps. There were very few of them. Once an inscription master reached level 5, he would be extremely powerful. This jade token only contains some basic knowledge and general knowledge. Look at the rest. There are also some introductions on how to cultivate. There are also some low-level inscriptions that I have collected and controlled. Boy, I will let you have a good look. On his shoulder, Dandan chewed on the elixir as it spoke proudly. Lu Ming took out another jade tablet and placed it between his eyebrows. This piece of jade contained all the records of first-level inscriptions. There were hundreds of thousands of them. Lu Ming felt dazzled. After half a day, Lu Ming picked up another jade card. This jade card also had a first-level inscription. Then, 6 or 7 jade plates in a row, all of which were level 1 inscriptions. In total, there were more than 3 million types of inscriptions. Lu Ming was shocked. Even if he had never eaten pork, he had never seen a pig run. Although Lu Ming was not an inscriber, he still had some general knowledge. Although the first-level inscriptions were the lowest-level inscriptions, they were also the most numerous. It was already considered good for an inscriber to master a few hundred types. However, there were more than 3 million types here. This was simply terrifying. Then, Lu Ming continued to look. After that, there were level 2 inscriptions and level 3 inscriptions. Dandan did not inscribe any level 4 inscriptions. There were more than 1 million level 2 inscriptions and more than 600,000 level 3 inscriptions. The number was astonishing. How is it? I have lived for countless years and have come into contact with countless inscriptions. Now, do you believe me? Seeing Lu Ming's shocked expression, Dandan was very happy and proud. This time, Lu Ming did not attack Dandan. This guy had mastered so many inscriptions. Maybe what it said was true. The last jade token contained a cultivation technique. It was a cultivation technique for cultivating the spiritual fire. The cultivation method was called the underworld observation. Lu Ming comprehended it for a while and opened his eyes. Boy, how is it? Isn't this mind cultivation method enough to startle the heavens and make ghosts and gods weep? Dandan immediately asked proudly. Lu Ming shook his head and said, I don't feel anything. You don't feel anything? You really don't know what's good for you. Dandan curled its lips and said, well, you haven't started cultivating yet, so you can't experience the wonders of this cultivation method. Let me tell you, if this cultivation method is leaked, even a martial emperor will hunt you down. All the inscribers in the world will hunt you down. Is it that serious? Lu Ming was skeptical. Nonsense, do you think I would lie? Boy, you don't have a fire seed now. Wait until you find one, light the spiritual fire and start cultivating. Then you will know the benefits. Also, let me tell you, if you want to cultivate the path of inscription, you must be careful with your fire seed. It must be strong. If you light the spiritual fire with an ordinary flame, it will have a great impact on your future cultivation. The higher the level of the fire seed, the stronger it will be. You will be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort when cultivating in the future. Moreover, the spiritual fire will also be stronger. It will be of great help to you whether you are refining weapons, refining pills, or inscribing inscriptions. Dandan warned. Lu Ming nodded. Since he was going to cultivate, he had to cultivate in the best direction. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste of time? He planned to light the spiritual fire when he found a satisfactory fire seed. For the time being, he would put the matter of inscription aside. After that, he continued to comprehend the thunder conception. 3 days later, Mu Xiuyuan found him and told him that Mulans had left for a secret place far away to cultivate. Lu Ming let out a sigh in his heart. He knew that Mulans was most likely still mad at him. Otherwise, why would she not say goodbye to him? He could tell that Mulans was interested in him. How could he not be interested in Mulans? However, there was still someone in his heart that he could not let go of. Mu Xiuyuan left after saying a few words. Lu Ming fell into deep thought. Let's not think about it for now. My priority now is to improve my strength. I'll think about it after I defeat Martial Dominator De. It's time to go back. Lu Ming planned to return to the Lu clan and heal Lu Yintian's injuries with the life stream. The next day, Lu Ming left Tianxian City and headed east at a rapid speed. Lu Ming's speed was terrifying. He arrived at the Eastern Branch Palace in just 5 days. Lu Ming is back. The moment Lu Ming entered the Eastern Branch Palace, the news of his return spread across the Eastern Branch Palace. The teleportation was extremely fast. The news of Lu Ming defeating the Sacred Star had spread to the Eastern Branch Palace. Countless people rushed out to greet Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's figure flashed and avoided the crowd, appearing outside the Eastern Sky Courtyard. Chapter 6:16. Palace Master. Lu Ming called out. It was Mu Zheng, the Palace Master of the Eastern Palace. It turned out that Mu Zheng had already returned to the Eastern Palace. Lu Ming, I knew you would come here. Mu Zheng said with a smile. Palace Master, please have a seat inside. Lu Ming said with a smile. Mu Zheng nodded and the two walked into the East Sky Courtyard. Lu Ming, what are you going to do next? Mu Zheng asked as the two sat down in the courtyard. I plan to go home first. After some time, I will go to other regions to train. 2 years later, I will participate in the Battle of Providence. Lu Ming did not mention Huang. Instead, he told Mu Zheng about his plan. Well, it turns out that you already know about the Battle of Providence. It seems that Yan Kuangtu told you about it. I wanted to tell you about it too. It is very important for you. If you can win the Battle of Providence, you may reach Yan Kuangtu's height in the future. You may even surpass him and become the new legend of Tianxian domain. Mu Zheng looked at Lu Ming with bright eyes full of expectation. Lu Ming smiled and did not say much. The legend of Tianxian domain? To be honest, he did not care. By the way, Palace Master, I have something to ask you. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and asked. Oh? What is it? Mu Zheng said. Immediately, Lu Ming asked Mu Zheng about Elder Zhuang's family. When they were on their way to Tianxian City and were besieged by the people of the Heavenly Corpse sect, old Zhuang gave him his storage ring before he died. Lu Ming had once said that he would pass his storage ring to his family. Well, I will go back and send someone to investigate. I will give you the news tomorrow. Mu Zheng nodded. After chatting with Lu Ming for a while, he bade farewell and left. The next day, Mu Zheng sent news that Elder Zhuang did have a family living in Myriad Star City. They had a son and a daughter. Lu Ming immediately went to Myriad Star City. In the north of Myriad Star City, there was a small courtyard. The weeping willows outside were fluttering in the wind. It was quite elegant. But at this moment, it was disrupted by a discordant scene. A group of people gathered in front of the courtyard. Bastard, don't even think about taking my sister away. A furious roar was heard. The voice came from an 18 or 19-year-old young man. The young man was tall and sturdy, with a simple and honest appearance. At this moment, his face was filled with anger, and his eyes were fixed on an elegant middle-aged man in front of him. Behind the young man, there was a 16 or 17-year-old girl. She was pretty and sweet, and her figure was curvaceous. She was a rare beauty. At this moment, the young girl was also glaring at the middle-aged man with anger. The young man's name was Zhuang Shaoshan, and the young girl's name was Zhuang Xiaoro. Their father was old Zhuang, who had gone to the Tianxian domain with Lu Ming and was ambushed and killed by the Heavenly Corpse sect. As for the scholarly middle-aged man that they were glaring at, his name was Yao Gu, and he was a good friend of their father. He was also an Empyrean Divine Guard of the Empyrean Divine Palace, and his cultivation was on par with old Zhuang's. When old Zhuang was still around, Yao Gu and old Zhuang were very close. He also took good care of Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro. Who would have thought that after old Zhuang got into trouble, Yao Gu would reveal his beastly side? He actually wants Zhuang Xiaoro to be his concubine. Hee, little brat, do you think you can stop me? Let me tell you, when your father went to the Tianxian domain, he borrowed a middle LV5 spiritual weapon from me. Although he is dead, the spiritual weapon still needs to be returned. Either you hand over the spiritual weapon, or you let your sister be my concubine and serve me well. Then, I will let the matter of the spiritual weapon go. Yao Gu laughed coldly, and his eyes scanned Zhuang Xiaoro's body without restraint, and they were filled with passion. He had been eyeing Zhuang Xiaoro's beauty for a long time, but he could not do it when old Zhuang was around. Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro's faces turned pale. The two of them were martial grand masters. How could they take out a middle LV5 spiritual weapon? I will return the middle LV5 spiritual weapon to you. I will work hard to cultivate and earn spiritual crystals to buy a spiritual weapon for you. Don't take my sister away, don't take Xiaoro away. Zhuang Shaoshan stood in front of Zhuang Xiaoro and said, How long do I have to wait for you to return it? 10 years? 20 years? 50 years? Perhaps you will not be able to take out a middle LV5 spiritual weapon in your entire life. Alright, move away. I know your father, and I do not want to trouble you. Yao Gu laughed coldly. But Zhuang Shaoshan stood there stubbornly, staring at Yao Gu angrily. Yao Gu frowned. Brat, Master Yao has given you face, but you do not know how to appreciate it. You are looking for death. Piss off. A man with a scar on his face scolded as he walked forward and threw out a slap toward Zhuang Shaoshan. Zhuang Shaoshan bit on his teeth, and a long spear appeared in his hand, stabbing toward the man's palm. Little bastard, you are only a 9th-level martial grand master, and you dare to fight back. You overestimate yourself. The man sneered viciously as he turned his palm into a claw. Jin Qi exploded as he grabbed onto Zhuang Shaoshan's long spear and shook it. This man with a scar on his face was a half-step king warrior, which was thousands of miles more powerful than Zhuang Shaoshan. With that shake, his Jin Qi exploded, and the long spear shook. Zhuang Shaoshan screamed as his body was blown away, crashing into the wall of the yard, shattering it completely. Blood poured out of Zhuang Shaoshan's mouth. Brother! Zhuang Xiaoro screamed as she rushed in front of Zhuang Shaoshan with tears in her eyes. Xiaoro, go! Go! Zhuang Shaoshan yelled. Go? Where do you want to go? Stop dreaming. The man walked forward with big steps as he laughed coldly. Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro looked desperate. Little beauty, it is your fortune that Master Yao likes you. Go back and serve Master Yao well. If you serve him well, you will have a good life. The man sneered as he reached out his hand toward Zhuang Xiaoro. Bastard, piss off. Zhuang Shaoshan roared as he struggled to get up. But he was already badly wounded, and the bones in one of his arms were broken as well. He could not use any power at all. Zhuang Xiaoro roared as she tried her best to resist. she shot out a few rays of light. However, she was only a fifth-layer martial master, far weaker than the scar-faced man. She was easily defeated by the scar-faced man. He grabbed her by the shoulder and poured his Jin Qi into her. Zhuang Xiaoro's Jin Qi was sealed and she could not resist at all. "Brother!" Zhuang Xiaoro screamed as tears flowed down her face. "Xiaoro!" Zhuang Xiaoshan roared as he struggled to get up. But the man kicked him, and he was sent flying far away as he coughed out blood. Yao Gu waved his fan as he watched with a cold smile. There were some residents around, but no one said a word. Myriad Star City was too big, and no one knew how many people there were. Things like this happened every day. The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace could not manage all of them. Moreover, most of the people in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace were in the outside world. Myriad Star City was just a transit city. Moreover, Yao Gu was a 4th-grade Martial King realm lower-tier Martial King. In Myriad Star City, he was a peak existence. Who would dare to offend him? Hee, let's go back and serve Master Yao well. Chapter 617. This chick is really pretty and has a great figure. If Master Yao is tired of her, he might reward me with her in the future. Hee. The scar-faced man thought happily. The reason why he was so enthusiastic was because of this thought. In the past, Yao Gu would reward his subordinates with women that he was tired of playing with. Behind Yao Gu, the others gritted their teeth and looked at the scar-faced man with envy. They regretted not moving faster and letting that guy beat them to it. You better let go of your filthy hands immediately. At this moment, an extremely cold voice rang out. The voice was like the winter snow, chilling to the bone. A young man in his 20s slowly walked over. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He was naturally Lu Ming. After he got old Zhuang's address and the situation of his family, he immediately rushed over. However, he encountered this scene. The scar-faced man looked at Lu Ming and sneered, "Kid, are you talking to me? I'll give you 3 breaths of time to let go of your filthy hands. Otherwise, die." 1. Lu Ming said coldly. Ha, kid, you're very arrogant. However, arrogance requires skill. The scar-faced man laughed loudly. 2. Lu Ming continued to speak coldly. The scar-faced man's expression changed as he shouted angrily, "Kid, do you know who my master is? My master is a lower-tier king and a level 3 Empyrean Divine Guard. You better behave yourself." 3. Lu Ming spat out the word 3 coldly and said, "Time's up. You don't have a chance anymore." Whoosh! As soon as he finished his words, Lu Ming's figure disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in front of the burly man with a scar. He grabbed the burly man with a scar by the throat and lifted him up high. The scar-faced burly man's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. He could not exert any strength in his body. There was fear in his eyes. Just now, he did not even have time to react. Lu Ming's speed was too fast. Naturally, he let go of Zhuang Xiaoro's shoulder. "Brother!" Zhuang Xiaoro hurriedly ran to Zhuang Xiaoshan's side to check on his injuries. "Xiaoro, I'm fine." Zhuang Xiaoshan struggled to get up and looked at Lu Ming with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Who is this young man? Is he father's friend? Why haven't I heard father mention it before? Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro both looked at Lu Ming and thought. "Lord Yao, save me, save me." The scarred man hissed. At this moment, Yao Gu's expression was a little solemn. Just now, he did not see clearly how Lu Ming attacked. "Stop shouting. Today, no one can save you. Go on your way." Lu Ming said coldly. No. The scar-faced man screamed in horror. His hands clawed and his feet kicked, as if he was trying to grasp onto a glimmer of hope. But in Lu Ming's hands, he was like a little chick, unable to resist at all. Gotcha! Lu Ming exerted force and broke the scar-faced man's neck. The scar-faced man's screams stopped abruptly. Brat, how dare you kill someone in the Myriad Star City? Men, quickly inform the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's law enforcement team to take down this evil demon. Yao Gu shouted. The reason why he did not say anything earlier was that he was waiting for Lu Ming to kill the scar-faced man. This way, he would have an excuse to call the law enforcement team. In the Myriad Star City, it was fine to injure or even cripple someone. But killing someone was not allowed. One would be punished by the law enforcement team of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. This was the rule. Sometimes, one did not need to use force to deal with a person. One just needed to use one's brain. Yao Gu thought proudly. As for sacrificing the scar-faced man's life, what was that? He was just a dog. Now, it's your turn. Lu Ming did not seem to know that he had committed a serious crime. He looked at Yao Gu and the rest coldly, emitting a murderous intent. Yao Gu's expression changed and he shouted angrily, "Brat, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to kill us? You've committed a serious crime. You're a lunatic and evil demon. You scum will be a scourge if you stay in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. All of you must die." Lu Ming walked forward and said coldly, "Brat, do you think you're so great after killing a half-step king? I'll cripple you." A burly man of the Martial King realm jumped out and threw a punch at Lu Ming. This punch carried the intent of mountains. It was like a burly man smashing at Lu Ming with shocking power. Bang! The next moment, he was sent flying by Lu Ming's kick. He fell to the ground tens of meters away, no longer breathing. He was dead. "Brat, you've killed another person. You're dead." Yao Gu shouted. "You talk too much." Lu Ming shouted coldly and flicked his finger. Whoosh! 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 More than 10 spear lights shot out. Then, more than 10 screams were heard. Yao Gu's lackeys, whether they were below the Martial King realm or above, were all nailed to the ground by the spear lights. Only Yao Gu was left alive. Hiss, gasps could be heard from the surrounding onlookers. In their eyes, this young man was too ruthless. He did not show any mercy and killed more than 10 people in the Myriad Star City. Was he not afraid of the punishment of the law enforcement team? Or had he killed one person and decided to go all out? Yao Gu's face turned pale and there was a trace of fear in his eyes. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao's eyes were filled with worry. Lu Ming had killed so many people. The law enforcement team would be here soon. What should they do? Tell me, how do you want to die? Lu Ming looked at Yao Gu. You're finished. You've killed so many people. You're finished. Yao Gu roared, but his body retreated. However, Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared in front of him. I'll kill you. Yao Gu was shocked. Then, he roared and a saber appeared in his hand. He slashed at Lu Ming. The attack of a LV4 Martial King was shocking. The onlookers kept retreating, afraid of being affected. However, the next scene left them dumbfounded. Lu Ming did not even take out his spiritual weapon. He slapped Yao Gu with his bare hand. With a clang, Lu Ming's palm hit Yao Gu's saber. Yao Gu's middle LV5 saber flew out. However, Lu Ming's palm was not affected at all. He continued to slap Yao Gu. Slap! A slap landed on Yao Gu's face. A crisp and clear sound could be heard. Yao Gu spun on the spot for dozens of rounds. He then looked at Lu Ming with a dumbstruck expression. He could not fight back against Lu Ming. Who was this young man? He was too terrifying. Yao Gu was suddenly filled with endless fear. Tell me, how do you want to die? Lu Ming looked at Yao Gu indifferently. Swoosh! Swoosh! At this moment, there was a sound in the sky. More than 10 figures broke through the void and flew toward them. Powerful auras were emitted from these people. Among them, there were 3 lesser completion kings. The law enforcement team of the Tian Divine Guards had arrived. Who dares to kill people in Myriad Star City? An angry roar came from the mouth of a middle-aged man in a red robe who was the leader. Chapter 6:18. My lords from the law enforcement hall, this kid is a demon. He started a massacre as soon as he came out. Look, how many people has he killed? Now he wants to kill me. Yao Gu was overjoyed when he saw the people from the law enforcement hall. He shouted crazily as if he had found a life-saving straw. The red-robed man from the law enforcement hall looked at Lu Ming in the direction Yao Gu was pointing at. His expression changed drastically. He had seen Lu Ming before and he recognized Lu Ming at this moment. Yao Gu did not notice the change in the red-robed man's expression. He stepped back and looked at Lu Ming coldly. Kid, I don't care who you are. You will be punished for killing people in Myriad Star City. Yao Gu shouted in his heart. Yao Gu, how dare you? Kneel down and admit your guilt. The red-robed man shouted. Huh, kid, kneel down and admit your guilt. Yao Gu laughed heartily. But in the next instant, his smile froze. That was because he realized that the red-cloaked large man had called out his name. He turned his neck stiffly and looked at the red-robed man. He forced a smile and said, My lord, did you call the wrong name? What do you mean by the wrong name? I know you. You are Yao Gu, right? I am calling you. Kneel down now. The red-robed man shouted and a powerful aura fell on Yao Gu. Yao Gu was stunned. Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro were also stunned. The crowd was also stunned. Wasn't it the young man who killed them? Why did he ask Yao Gu to kneel down now? My lord, is there a mistake? He is the one who killed them. Yao Gu pointed at Lu Ming and shouted. How dare you slander Lord Lu Ming? Lu Ming is an important figure. If you did not commit a serious crime, why would Lord Lu Ming kill you? Kneel down now. The red-robed man shouted. What? Lu Ming. Yao Gu's face turned ghastly pale all of a sudden. He looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. Then, his eyes were filled with endless fear. There was silence all around. Everyone stared at Lu Ming with their eyes wide open. Could this young man actually be Lu Ming? The news that Lu Ming had defeated the Sacred Star in the Heavenly Arcana branch had spread across the Eastern branch, and even the 10,000 Star City. Who was the Saint Star? He was a peerless genius on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness, and his cultivation had reached the Peak King realm. It could be said that in the Tianqian region, apart from those few Sea of Soul realm experts, no one could rival him. Even such a character had been defeated by Lu Ming. How strong could Lu Ming be? Right now, Lu Ming was at the peak of Tianqian region. With his talent, he could even stand on equal footing with Sea of Soul realm experts. What kind of status was this? If others killed people in the Myriad Star City, they would definitely be punished, but Lu Ming would definitely not. Who would dare to punish him? When one's strength reached a certain level, he could override the rules. Brother, he's Lu Ming. He's Lord Lu Ming. We're saved. After the shock, Zhuang Xiaoro was endlessly excited. The young man who had fought for them was actually Lu Ming. They knew that they were saved. No one could touch them. Yes. Zhuang Shaoshan said foolishly. He looked at Lu Ming with endless admiration. Lu Ming was only a few years older than him, but his achievements were 108,000 times greater than his. He was his idol. Bang! Yao Gu's body shook like a sieve, and then he actually knelt down. When he found out that the young man in front of him was Lu Ming, he knew that he was done for. But he didn't want to give up, so he begged, Lord Lu Ming, spare my life, spare my life. I was just joking with the Zhuang siblings, just joking. Just joking. There was a cold smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. Do you think I'm blind? You probably think that the two of them have no support after their father passed away, right? Unfortunately, you don't know that their father and I are sworn friends. Lu Ming's voice wasn't loud, but it was heard by everyone. Friends of life and death. Lu Ming and old Zhuang were friends of life and death. At this moment, countless people looked at Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou with envy. Although old Zhuang was dead, the Zhuang siblings had Lu Ming as their backing. They could do whatever they wanted in Tianxian region. Yao Gu's face was filled with despair. Whoosh! With a flick of his finger, a spear radiance shot out and pierced through Yao Gu's dantian, destroying his cyclone. Yao Gu's cultivation was crippled. You guys can leave first. I will take care of this. Lu Ming said to the people from the tribunal council. Yes. Those people from the law enforcement hall retreated respectfully. As for Yao Gu and the others, they were blind enough to offend Lu Ming. Their deaths were in vain. Lu Ming waved his hand and wrapped Yao Gu with his ethereal force and brought him in front of the Zhuang siblings. I'll leave him to you. Kill him. Lu Ming said. Kill him. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou were shocked and hesitated. Martial artists should repay kindness with kindness and revenge with revenge. If I didn't arrive today, have you thought about what would have happened to you? What's there to hesitate about? If you have to hesitate to kill your enemy, what's the point of practicing martial arts? Lu Ming's voice was like thunder in the minds of the Zhuang siblings. Both of their eyes were filled with determination. I'll kill him. Zhuang Xiaoshan struggled to get up. Brother, let me do it. A long sword appeared in Zhuang Xiaorou's hand. No. Spare my life. Please spare my life for the sake of my many years of friendship with your father. Yao Gu screamed in fear. Why didn't you spare us on account of your years of friendship with my father? Die. Zhuang Xiaorou's voice was cold. She stabbed her sword into Yao Gu's heart. Yao Gu's eyes were wide open and filled with unwillingness. In the end, he stopped breathing. He only wanted to bring Zhuang Xiaorou back to play with her. He had done this many times and it had never been a problem. Why did he have to meet Lu Ming this time? Good and evil will be rewarded. This was Yao Gu's last thought. Lu Ming nodded. In the world of martial arts, the strong preyed on the weak. If one's heart wasn't hard enough, how could one survive in this world? This was especially true for those who were beautiful but weak. They would often end up as someone's plaything. Lu Ming hoped that after experiencing this incident, they would be able to change. Lord Lu Ming, thank you for saving us this time. Otherwise, Xiaorou would have. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou came to Lu Ming and thanked Lu Ming. You don't have to thank me. This is what I should do. Sigh, I didn't have the ability to save your father back then. Lu Ming sighed. The Zhuang siblings' eyes were red. Elder Zhuang's storage ring appeared in his hand. Lu Ming passed it to Zhuang Xiaoshan and said, "This is your father's storage ring. Now, I'll give it to you." Holding Elder Zhuang's storage ring, the siblings' eyes became redder and tears rolled down their cheeks. Then, the siblings looked at each other and suddenly knelt down in front of Lu Ming. Lord Lu Ming, please accept us as your disciples. Chapter 619. Lu Ming was a little stunned. He had never expected the Zhuang siblings to want him as their master. Lord Lu Ming, please accept us as your disciples. We will definitely work hard and not embarrass you. Zhuang Xiaoshan kowtowed, and Zhuang Xiaorou quickly followed. Lu Ming frowned. He sized up the two of them. Although their aptitudes were not top-notch, they were still considered top-notch talents. With some guidance, they might be able to achieve great things. However, Lu Ming had never thought of accepting disciples. He was still young, and the key was that he did not have the time to teach them. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou looked at Lu Ming with anticipation. The surrounding onlookers also looked on curiously. They were all guessing if Lu Ming would accept them. After pondering for a while, Lu Ming said, "How about this? I will accept you as my in-name disciples first." Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro were overjoyed. They immediately kowtowed. "Master, please accept a kowtow from your disciples." Although they were not direct disciples and were only in-name disciples, the two of them were already satisfied. Lu Ming could not help but touch his nose. He had a strange feeling in his heart. He did not expect that he would have disciples so soon. Cough, cough. Lu Ming coughed dryly and said, "All right, get up. However, I have to tell you that I will not have the time to teach you during this period. I will bring you to the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace to cultivate first. When I am free in the future, I will teach you then." "Thank you, Master." Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro kowtowed again before getting up. "All right, let's go to the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace first." With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming brought the Zhuang siblings and headed towards the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. The surrounding onlookers were all envious. Old Zhuang's son and daughter are so lucky to be able to have Lu Ming as their master. This is really a blessing from 8 lifetimes. That's right. With this, they will have a meteoric rise. Old Zhuang can also smile in the underworld. I'm so envious. Everyone was discussing animatedly, and the news of Lu Ming accepting 2 disciples also spread. Lu Ming brought the Zhuang siblings into the eastern sky courtyard. "Xiao Shan, heal yourself first." Lu Ming gave Zhuang Xiaoshan a bottle of healing pills. "Thank you, Master." Zhuang Xiaoshan took the pill and swallowed it. He sat down cross-legged and began to heal himself. Lu Ming flicked his finger and a stream of quintessential essence flew into Zhuang Xiaoshan's body, assisting him in his recovery. Zhuang Xiaoshan's injuries quickly recovered. Then, Lu Ming took out a sound transmission jade talisman and sent out a message. Half an hour later, Zhuang Xiaoshan's injuries had stabilized and he opened his eyes. At this moment, a figure appeared in the air. It was Mu Zheng. "Xiao Shan, Xiao Rou, this is Palace Master Mu Zheng." Lu Ming introduced the two of them. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro were shocked. They hurried to Mu Zheng's side and bowed. They had grown up in the Myriad Star City and had heard of Mu Zheng's name for a long time. However, they had never seen him before. They did not expect to see this legendary figure after becoming Lu Ming's disciple. The two of them were excited. "Ha, Lu Ming, I just received news that you have accepted 2 disciples. I was just about to congratulate you when I received your message." Mu Zheng laughed. "Palace Master Mu, you must be joking." "Palace Master, I'm afraid that Lu Ming will not have much time to teach them in the future. I would like to leave the 2 of them in the Eastern Sky Courtyard and cultivate in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. What do you think?" Lu Ming said. "Of course, no problem. Don't worry, I will teach them when I have time." Mu Zheng said straightforwardly. "Thank you, Palace Master." Lu Ming cupped his fists. As for the Zhuang siblings, they were naturally overjoyed and thanked him. "Take these 2 tokens. In the future, you can enter and exit the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace as you wish." Mu Zheng gave Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro a token each. The brother and sister were naturally overjoyed and thanked him again. Mu Zheng smiled and then took his leave. "Xiao Shan, continue to recuperate. When you have recovered, I will impart some martial techniques to you," Lu Ming said. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Zhuang Xiaoshan's injuries had already recovered. Lu Ming also imparted some cultivation methods and martial techniques to them because of that. Zhuang Xiaoshan's bloodline was a black mountain. Lu Ming found a heaven-class inferior martial technique, Thousand Mountains technique, in his storage ring and gave it to Zhuang Xiaoshan. As for Zhuang Xiaoro's bloodline, it was a small blue sword. It was crystal clear and had a strong water attribute. Lu Ming found a heaven-class inferior martial technique. He also gave the 2 of them a few martial techniques that were suitable for them. Most importantly, Lu Ming imparted the 10,000 spirit battle body to the two of them. Then, he gave them 3 drops of middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid to refine their bodies. Both of their cultivations were improving every day. This was all he could give them for the time being. In the future, they would have to rely on themselves. As for the true dragon fighting art, they had to start cultivating it before the meridian opening realm. Otherwise, they would not be able to cultivate it. The same went for the 3 ultimate dragon gods. They had to comprehend many different wills. These could not be imparted to them. 7 days later, Lu Ming left the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace under the reluctant gazes of the Zhuang siblings. Now, Lu Ming had to return to the Blazing Sun Empire to treat Lu Yunqian's meridians. Lu Ming flew towards the Blazing Sun Empire at lightning speed. Ever since the Blazing Sun Empire was unified, it had been stable. Everyone knew that Lu Ming was standing behind Hua Qi. No one would have second thoughts. With the help of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect and the Crimson Cloud Valley, the royal family's national power was recovering rapidly and they were thriving day by day. As for the Lu family in the east of the Blazing Sun Empire, they had become an extremely special family. Although they were not strong, everyone had to give them face. During this period, the Lu family had developed rapidly. Countless martial experts had joined the Lu family. The Lu family's strength had increased by dozens of times. Their businesses had spread to hundreds of cities. However, everyone in the Lu family would never forget that Lu Ming was the one who had brought all of this to them. Without Lu Ming, everything that they had would have vanished in an instant. In the courtyard of the Lu family head residence, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping were sitting at a stone table. They were drinking tea and chatting. Although Lu Yuntian was the Lu family head, he would not show up for small matters. He would leave everything to his subordinates to handle. He was happy to be free. I wonder how Ming is doing now. Li Ping suddenly sighed. Why? I miss Ming Lu Yuntian said. Don't you miss him? Li Ping rolled her eyes at Lu Yuntian. What a woman. Ming is now at the golden age of cultivation. Of course he needs to travel outside. We should take care of ourselves at home so that Ming won't worry. Lu Yuntian said. Although he said that, the trace of longing in his eyes could not be dispelled. You're so stubborn. Li Ping glared at Lu Yuntian. Father, mother. At this moment, a figure called out. Lu Ming's figure appeared in the courtyard. Lu Yuntian and Li Ping trembled. They looked at Lu Ming and were overjoyed. Ming you're back. Father, mother, Ming is back to see you. Chapter 620. It's good that you're back. Come, let me take a good look at you. Li Ping happily pulled Lu Ming to sit down and look at him. Lu Yunqian's face was also full of smiles. Father, mother, Ming is fine. Don't worry. Lu Ming smiled and sat down with Li Ping and the other two. Father, Ming came back mainly to heal your meridians. Lu Ming said. What? Heal my meridians? Lu Yunqian's hand that was holding the teacup trembled. Obviously, Lu Yuntian was shocked. Ming is what you said true? Can you really heal your father's meridians? Li Ping looked at Lu Ming excitedly. That's right. Father, mother, Ming obtained a bottle of the legendary life water. It can definitely heal father's injuries. Lu Ming moved his hand and the life water appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Life water, life water. I didn't expect such a treasure to exist in this world. Lu Yuntian said excitedly. Father, drink it. I'll help you refine it. Lu Ming gave the life water to Lu Yuntian. All right. Lu Yuntian received it and took a deep breath. He drank it in one gulp and sat down cross-legged. Lu Ming placed his palm on Lu Yunqian's back. True Yuan continuously flowed into Lu Yunqian's body to help him refine the life water. The life water turned into vigorous vitality energy and nourished Lu Yunqian's meridians. Wherever this energy passed, Lu Yintian's broken and withered meridians were reconnected. Moreover, they became more vigorous and resilient. 2 hours later, the life water was completely refined. Lu Yintian's meridians were healed and were several times stronger than before. His body was filled with vitality and was full of vitality. It's done. It's really done. Lu Yuntian circulated his cultivation technique and looked at the fiery red true qi in his palm. He was so excited that his body trembled and tears welled up in his eyes. Lu Yuntian's cultivation had already reached the martial grandmaster realm. With the help of Lu Ming, he immediately recovered a bit of his cultivation. How many years had it been? He had thought that he would never be able to practice martial arts again, and that he would never be able to recover his true qi again. But now, he had it back. No one could understand Lu Yuntian's current mood. Ming Her, thank you. Lu Yuntian took a deep breath and looked at Lu Ming. Father, you and I are father and son. There's no need to thank me. This is what I should do. Lu Ming smiled. He was very happy to see Lu Yuntian recover. That's great, that's great. At the side, Li Ping was also extremely excited. No one in the world knew Lu Yuntian better than her. Lu Yuntian had always had a heart for martial arts. He was a natural martial artist, so not being able to cultivate was a huge blow to him. Now, everything was fine. Father, take these cultivation techniques, martial arts techniques, and elixirs. Lu Ming took out the cultivation techniques, martial arts techniques, elixirs, and weapons that he had prepared for Lu Yuntian. These were all carefully selected by Lu Ming as they were the most suitable for Lu Yuntian. There were all kinds of cultivation techniques, enough for Lu Yuntian to use until he reached the martial king realm. Ming Her, do you have enough for yourself? Lu Yuntian asked. He was afraid that Lu Ming had given him so many resources that he would not be able to use them. In comparison, Lu Ming was more important. He was already very happy to be able to cultivate. The resources should be left for Lu Ming. After all, Lu Ming was at the golden age of cultivation. Father, don't worry. Ming has a lot of resources. Lu Ming smiled. Lu Yuntian took it. Father, this is a bottle of middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid. Take it and use it with Mother. Not only will it help you cultivate your flesh, it will also improve Mother's body. Lu Ming took out the bottle of middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid and handed it to Lu Yuntian. Middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid. Lu Yuntian's heart skipped a beat. He clearly knew that the price of a middle-grade Xiantian origin liquid was an astronomical figure that he could not even imagine. Taking a deep breath, Lu Yuntian looked at Lu Ming with a serious expression and asked, Ming Her, what's your cultivation now? Lu Ming did not hide anything and said, Peak 9th layer Martial King Realm, but it'll take me some time to reach the Peak Martial King Realm. Peak 9th layer Martial King Realm. Lu Yuntian's heart skipped a beat, before it was filled with joy. Great, great, I'll take this bottle of Xiantian origin liquid. Lu Yuntian burst out laughing. Peak 9th layer Martial King Realm was a realm that he did not even dare to imagine. How could he not be happy that Lu Ming had reached it at such a young age? This was his, Lu Yuntian's, son. The three of them chatted for a while before Lu Yuntian rushed into his room and started cultivating. Lu Ming smiled. With Lu Yuntian's talent, he believed that it would not take long for him to recover his peak cultivation. News of Lu Ming's return did not spread. In the following days, Lu Ming would chat with Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. He would focus on comprehending the lightning intent. Half a month later, Lu Yuntian's cultivation had recovered to the peak 9th layer Martial Master realm. Soon, he would return to the Martial Grand Master realm. At this time, Lu Ming's lightning intent broke through again, reaching the peak of the first level. Now, it's time to raise my wind fire intent to the peak of the first level. Lu Ming entered the Temple of Paragon, took out a middle-grade profound crystal, and began to break through. 7 days later, Lu Ming used 3 pieces of each of the 2 types of middle-grade profound crystals to break through to the perfected level 1 of the wind and fire concepts. With all three intents at the peak of the first level, Lu Ming's cultivation should be able to reach the peak of the king realm. However, he did not have enough resources. Lu Ming only had 6 million top-grade spiritual crystals. It was not enough for him to reach the peak of the king realm. He had no choice but to put it aside for now and focus on cultivating the three ultimate skills of the dragon god. With all three intents at the peak of the first level, he could cultivate the three ultimate skills of the dragon god to the 6th level. 3 days later, Lu Ming headed for the imperial capital. He started to think about what was at the bottom of the Earth Origin Cave. When Lu Ming was in the first layer of the Martial King realm, he did not manage to dig it out. Now, he wanted to try again. However, before going to the Earth Origin Cave, he first found Hua Qi to catch up with him. Then, he headed to the Earth Origin Cave. No one noticed Lu Ming. Silently, Lu Ming went to the lowest level of the Earth Origin Cave. It was the 14th level, the level that Lu Ming had dug out. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, this place did not affect Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming continued to dig. The 15th level, the 16th level, the 17th level. When Lu Ming dug out the 17th level and wanted to continue digging, he found that it was empty. Lu Ming dug out a hole and rushed down. He found that there was a huge underground cave below. The fire spiritual chi here was unimaginably violent. In the air of the underground cave, a ball of fire burned fiercely like the sun. Endless heat spread out from the ball of fire. Nest, this is the earth core flowing flame. Kid, you're rich. Chapter 621. Dandan shouted excitedly. Geocentric flowing flame. Lu Ming was a little puzzled. Boy, you're really lucky. The geocentric flowing flame is a kind of top-grade flame between heaven and earth. If you use it to ignite the spirit fire, it'll be perfect. Boy, I'm starting to envy your luck. Dandan shouted. Lu Ming's eyes also lit up. If I absorb this flame, there won't be any fire attribute spirit chi here. Won't this cultivation holy land be wasted? Lu Ming said. What waste? Let me tell you, if you absorb the geocentric flowing flame, the value of this place will really explode. Haven't you noticed that this place is actually a spiritual eye? It is constantly emitting spirit chi, but it has always been absorbed by the flowing geocentric flame, or even blocked. Now that you have absorbed the flowing geocentric flame, the spirit chi here will spread out, turning this place into a true holy land for cultivation. Dandan explained. I see. Lu Ming observed carefully. True enough, he discovered that spirit energy was constantly emanating from below. However, most of it was absorbed by the geocentric flowing flame. It was even burned by the scorching flames. The remaining spirit energy spread out along with the scorching flame's aura, forming fire spirit energy. Lu Ming finally knew how the Earth Yuan Cave was formed. Boy, you can't miss this opportunity. I'll teach you how to ignite the spirit fire. First, visualize 10 spirit lamps in your sea of consciousness. Dandan began to teach. Lu Ming began to visualize the spirit lamps in his sea of consciousness according to Dandan's method. The sea of consciousness and Dantian, in a sense, were infinitely big, like two universes. Although the thunder cauldron occupied a part of it, Lu Ming could visualize the spirit lamps in another part of the sea of consciousness. Slowly, 10 spirit lamps seemed to appear in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness, but they were all extinguished and not lit. Now, grab the geocentric flowing flame and use the underworld visualization to absorb it into your sea of consciousness. Dandan shouted. Lu Ming waved both of his palms, forming two giant palms that grabbed the flowing geocentric flames. Boom! The flowing geocentric flame shook violently, as if it had a mind of its own and wanted to escape. The three states of wind, fire, and thunder erupted. Together with his quintessence, he firmly grasped the flowing flame in the geocentric flame and brought it before Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt as if his true essence was about to ignite. The temperature of the flowing geocentric flame was too high. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th layer martial emperor realm, and that his 3 intents had all reached the first stage perfection stage, he would not be able to deal with the earth core flowing flame. Even an ordinary great achievement king would be burned to death if they came. Refine. Lu Ming muttered. He used his true essence and concepts to temper away the violent elements of the flowing earth core flame, making it more docile. 2 hours later, Lu Ming started to use the Dark God observation method to absorb the flowing flame from the earth's core and ignite his spiritual fire. Whoosh whoosh, wisps of flowing flame from the earth's core flew into Lu Ming's forehead and appeared in Lu Ming's mind. Boom! Instantly, Lu Ming felt as if he was in magma. The terrifying temperature and flames were burning his body, including his soul. Hot, too hot. Kid, you have to hold on. The higher the quality of the flame, the greater the danger of igniting your spiritual fire. However, the benefits are also unimaginable. Dandan's voice sounded. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and tried his best to control the flowing flame from the earth's core to ignite his spiritual fire. Give me some. Lu Ming roared. He controlled the flowing flame from the earth's core and ignited it towards a lamp. Whoosh, all the flowing flame from the earth's core rushed towards the first lamp. The first lamp emitted a fiery red light. Then, a wisp of flame appeared on the wick of the lamp. At first, the flame was very small, but slowly, the flame on the wick grew bigger and bigger. Finally, it started to burn fiercely. Success! The spiritual fire was successfully ignited. However, this was just the beginning. It was far from over. When the flame of the first lamp reached its peak, a wisp of flame also appeared on the wick of the second lamp. The flame grew bigger and bigger. Kid, the flowing flame from the earth's core is too strong. This is an opportunity to ignite more lamps. Take advantage of it. Dandan reminded. Lu Ming operated the underworld god observation method with all his might. When the flame of the second lamp reached its peak, a scarlet flame also appeared on the wick of the third lamp. Then, the fourth lamp, the fifth lamp, the sixth lamp, igniting 6 lamps had already reached the requirement of a true inscription master. However, it was still far from the limit. The 7th lamp, the 8th lamp, the 9th lamp, the 10th lamp. The 10 spirit lamps were all lit up. Perfect, perfect. The first stage is perfect. It really is the flowing flame from the earth's core. Dandan laughed. The 10 spirit lamps burned with scarlet spirit fire. When the flames of the 10 spirit lamps reached their peak, the spirit fire of the 10 spirit lamps suddenly gathered on the first spirit lamp, while the other 9 spirit lamps were extinguished. The flame of the first lamp started to change. It turned into an orange flame. Orange. This meant that Lu Ming had reached the second stage. The spiritual fire of a level 2 inscription master was orange. This was not the end. When the orange flame of the first lamp reached its peak, the second lamp was also successfully ignited. Just like before, the third lamp, the fourth lamp, finally, the 10th lamp. The second stage also had 10 lamps ignited. Perfect. When the orange flame of the 10 lamps reached its peak, it gathered on the first lamp again. The first lamp's flame turned yellow again. Yellow flame. Level 3 inscription master. Just like before, after the first lamp was ignited, the second lamp, the third lamp, the fourth lamp, this time, he ignited 6 lamps in one go. At this moment, he finally stopped and did not ignite the 7th lamp. The energy of the flowing flame from the earth's core has finally been used up. Amazing. The first 2 stages were perfect. The third stage, you ignited 6 lamps. This is very rare. Dandan laughed and danced. Lu Ming's face also revealed a happy expression. Within the same level, the more lamps one ignited, the more vigorous the spiritual fire would be. This also meant that one's spiritual power would be stronger. Lu Ming was now a level 3 inscription master. Of course, it was only his spiritual fire that had reached level 3. If he wanted to become a level 3 inscription master, he still needed to practice inscription. Only by mastering inscription could he be considered a true inscription master. Brat, let me tell you, the strength of your spiritual flame is so strong that I'm afraid even those half-baked level 5 inscription masters here can't compare to you. Hee, the first 2 stages are perfect. There aren't many people who can achieve perfection. However, it will be difficult for you to achieve perfection in the later stages. But I still hope that you can do your best and achieve perfection in every stage. Dandan said. Lu Ming nodded. If he wanted to cultivate, of course he had to aim for the best. He would work hard. Chapter 622. Let's try engraving inscriptions. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the air and closed his eyes. Various methods of engraving level 1 inscriptions began to appear in his mind. In his mind, there were more than 3 million methods of engraving level 1 inscriptions that Dandan had given him. Each method was different. The inscriptions were like a trace of the natural world, mysterious beyond compare. After a while, Lu Ming opened his eyes. The spiritual fire revolved between his fingers and he began to engrave in the air. As his fingertips moved, a mysterious pattern was formed in the air. On top of it, a blazing aura filled the air. This was a level 1 inscription, the heat inscription. Whoosh! The heat inscription flew out and was imprinted on the wall. Then, Lu Ming waved his finger and another inscription appeared in the air. This time, it was filled with a cold aura. This was a level 1 inscription, the cold inscription. With a shake of his finger, the cold inscription also flew out and was imprinted on the wall. Interesting. Lu Ming's eyes sparkled. The spiritual fire revolved and his finger kept moving in the air. Inscriptions flew out one after another, flickering with various radiances. Nestle, success, 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 all of them. Crazy. Dandan, who was on Lin Fan's shoulder, widened its tortoiseshell eyes. Lu Ming had lit 10 spirit lamps in the first stage. Engraving level 1 inscriptions should be easy. Dandan knew this. But now, Lu Ming was engraving inscriptions for the first time. Not only was his inscription speed terrifying, but he also had a 100% success rate. This was too crazy. As far as Dandan knew, even 10 spirit lamps shouldn't be this crazy. Could this guy be an inscription genius? Dandan thought. Ha ha ha, awesome, awesome. Lu Ming felt his eyes glowing. He had a feeling that he was completely in control. It was incomparably comfortable. As he waved his finger, the speed of engraving became faster and faster. In the end, only a phantom could be seen waving and moving in the air. Flashing inscriptions flew out one after another. After half an hour, Lu Ming finally stopped. Brat, you seem to be very proud. Let me tell you, what are you proud of now? You're still far from it. Looking at Lu Ming's smug and carefree expression, Dandan was displeased and deliberately attacked him. Oh? Lu Ming was stunned. Let me tell you, the inscription you just inscribed is only a single level 1 inscription. If you want to refine weapons, refine pills, or even inscribe inscriptions, you need to combine a variety of inscriptions together. You need to combine countless level 1 inscriptions, or even low-level and high-level inscriptions. It's much more complicated than inscribing a single inscription. Boy, you still have a lot to learn. Also, do you think that your inscription speed is very fast? Let me tell you, there are many true inscription masters who can inscribe inscriptions in an instant. They can inscribe inscriptions with just a wave of their hand. They are many times faster than you. Dandan spared no effort in attacking Lu Ming. Yes, I'm still far from it. If you have time, you need to practice more. Lu Ming nodded. It was rare for him to feel that Dandan had said something human, no, something tortoise. Dandan nodded with its hands behind its back, looking like a promising child. However, in its heart, it was still shocked by Lu Ming's actions. What it was talking about were things that other people had slowly mastered after countless efforts. Who could achieve it in one go? Lu Ming's speed was already extremely amazing. Boy, try the underworld god visualization again and you'll know how wonderful it is. Dandan said. Okay. Lu Ming also couldn't wait to try it. Immediately, he closed his eyes and operated the underworld god visualization. All of a sudden, Lu Ming felt as though he was on a spiritual journey, drifting in the endless universe. Suddenly, a big river appeared in front of Lu Ming. He didn't know how wide and long this big river was. It was incomparably vast and filled with an ancient aura. Lu Ming felt that this big river had a strong attraction to him, attracting him to get closer. Lu Ming slowly flew over and flew into the big river. This is... At this moment, Lu Ming found that he had turned into a ball of flame, a ball of flowing earth core flame. The big river was filled with endless spirit fire, which was the inscription flame. The spirit fire in this big river was endless. It had turned into the color of chaos and was endless. The flowing earth core flame that Lu Ming had turned into floated in the river. Around him, wisps of spirit fire gathered towards the flowing earth core flame. At this moment, Lu Ming had a clear feeling that his spirit fire was slowly growing stronger. This is amazing. Lu Ming sighed. After a while, with a thought, the big river disappeared, and in front of him was the underground cave again. Amazing, I feel that the yellow spirit fire of the sixth spirit lamp has become stronger. Lu Ming said in a low voice. Brat, did you see a huge river? Dandan asked. Yes, what is that? Lu Ming asked curiously. He realized that he knew too little. He did not understand this world at all. Between heaven and earth, there are many laws that represent the heavenly Tao. The river you see is the law of inscription, a supreme law. The law of inscription contains endless power of inscription. If you use the underworld god observation method, you can successfully communicate with the law of inscription and obtain the power of inscription to strengthen your spiritual fire. Moreover, your flame seed is the earth core flowing flame. Coupled with the nether god observation method, I estimate that I've absorbed quite a bit of inscription energy. In the future, you can rely on this to cultivate and improve your spirit flame. Dandan explained. Oh? I seem to have heard that ordinary inscription masters don't improve their spirit fire like this. Lu Ming said. Nonsense, of course not. Dandan curled his lips and said, ordinary inscription masters have two ways to improve their spirit fire. One way is to constantly practice and use the flame of spirit through refining, alchemy, engraving inscription formations, and so on. This is equivalent to training the flame of spirit. The more you train, the flame of spirit will naturally improve. However, this method of improvement is extremely slow. Most of the inscriptionists you see use this method to improve. There's another way. It's also through weapon forging, alchemy, and so on. That's to forge weapons and alchemy beyond one's level. For example, when a level 1 inscription master forges a level 2 spirit weapon, the inscription law will descend upon him and raise his spirit flame. Of course, when forging a high-quality spirit weapon or alchemy of the same level, the inscription law will also descend upon him. It can be done like this? Lu Ming was a little stunned. Of course, there is another way, and that is the spirit fire cultivation method. You can directly communicate with the inscription force and absorb the inscription force. The speed will be countless times faster. However, the spirit fire cultivation method is too rare. Any low-level spirit fire cultivation method that comes out will cause a mad scramble. A low-level spirit fire cultivation method can create a powerful inscription force. And the underworld god observation method is the top spirit fire cultivation method. Now, you know how precious it is. Dandan said proudly. Chapter 623. Wait a minute, spiritual weapons and elixirs aren't upper grade the strongest? Why are there supreme grade and peerless grade? Lu Ming suddenly thought of this question. Bullshit, those inscription masters are useless and can only refine upper grade. That's why I said your spear is a waste. If you let that old man refine it, he can only refine upper grade level 6. If a level 6 true inscription master refined it, he can at least refine supreme grade. Dandan said disdainfully. I see. Lu Ming nodded. Suddenly, his expression changed and he said, "Someone is coming down, we should leave." Lu Ming felt that someone was coming down from above. Well, after Lu Ming absorbed the earth core flowing flame, the heat disappeared. The heaven and earth spiritual chi in the earth core cave was 10 times denser than before. It naturally attracted the curiosity of others and it was normal for them to come down to investigate. Lu Ming did not want to cause a commotion, so he did not plan to show himself. His body flashed and he turned into a ray of light and rushed up. He brushed past a few youths, but those youths didn't notice him at all. Soon, Lu Ming came out of the earth core cave and came to the imperial palace to find Hua Qi. He told Hua Qi about the earth core cave. Hua Qi was stunned when he heard this, then he was overjoyed. There was a spiritual eye under the earth core cave. With this as the foundation, the Burning Sun Empire would definitely have more and more experts in the future. The empire would also become stronger and stronger. Immediately, Hua Qi sent out experts to seal the earth core cave and then he thought about how to use it. Lu Ming and Hua Qi chatted for a while and left some elixirs and manuals for him. Then he left the imperial capital and returned to the Lu family. After that, Lu Ming's schedule was full every day. Apart from comprehending the thunder essence and cultivating the 3 unique skills of the dragon god, he would practice inscriptions, cultivate the underworld god visualization, and raise the spiritual fire. Time passed quickly and 2 months passed. It had been almost 3 months since the battle with the sacred star. In these 2 months, Lu Ming had made great progress in all aspects. The 3 ultimate skills of the dragon god had already reached perfection and reached the 6th level. As for the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps, he had reached the 4th step in one go. Its power was equivalent to the 6th level of a heaven-class upper-class martial skill, which was equivalent to the 6th level of the 3 skills of the dragon god. Adding on the fact that his 3 concepts of heaven and earth were all at the 1st level of perfection, Lu Ming's current battle strength was several times stronger than when he had fought against the sacred star. Now, even without the help of Dandan's inscription array, Lu Ming could easily defeat Sacred Star. Of course, the Sacred Star would also improve and wouldn't remain stagnant. This was a different matter altogether. As for the concept of thunder, it had also improved greatly and was infinitely close to the 2nd level. However, it was extremely difficult to break through to level 2. It was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Between a 1st-level concept and a 2nd-level concept, there was a massive chasm that was difficult to cross. The Tao of inscription improved the fastest. After 2 months of cultivation, Lu Ming had successfully ignited another spirit lamp. 7 yellow flames burned fiercely, and he was about to ignite the 8th. However, the further one went, the harder it was to ignite a spirit lamp. The first few spirit lamps were the easiest to ignite. As for Lu Ming's inscription speed, it had already reached a terrifying level. On a mountain peak hundreds of miles away from Windy Fire City, Lu Ming had been cultivating the path of inscription on this mountain peak. Lu Ming's figure flickered as he stepped on the mountain peak. With every step he took, an inscription would appear, emitting a resplendent light. Freak, freak! In just 2 short months, he has actually cultivated inscription to this level. This freak! On a bluestone nearby, Dandan was lazily basking in the sun, chewing on a spirit herb. As he chewed, he wailed in his heart. In 2 months, Lu Ming had finally reached the level where he could inscribe inscriptions with just a wave of his hand. If it were anyone else, it would be impossible for them to do this without 10 or 20 years of hard work. No wonder Dandan was wailing in grief. Brat, to cultivate to this level, you can barely be considered qualified. Once you become a 5th-level inscription master, your mental strength will be able to communicate with the power of heaven and earth. At that time, you will be able to erupt with a terrifying attack. Dandan would not admit that Lu Ming was a freak, but he still wanted to attack him. Otherwise, how could he maintain his lofty status? Although, in Lu Ming's heart, he had never been lofty. Let's go back. Lu Ming walked over and pinched Dandan's head, tossing it over his shoulder. Ah! Brat, if you dare pinch my head again, I won't let you off. I won't let you off. Dandan hysterically screamed. Lu Ming curled his lips and flew into the air, preparing to return to the Lu family. At this moment, a strong sense of danger emanated from his heart, causing his skin to tighten. Chi-chi, in the sky, countless wind blades sliced through the air and shot towards him, filled with an incomparably sharp intent. Boom! Without any hesitation, Lin Fan's 3 wills exploded, his true yuan rumbled, and hundreds of spear lights shot out, clashing with the wind blades. Boom! Boom! Explosions sounded out in the sky, and energy shot out in all directions, causing the forest to become a mess. Chi! At this moment, a huge wind blade, black in color, slashed down from the sky. Wherever the wind blade passed, the air would tremble violently and split apart like ripples of water. True Dragon Strike! Lu Ming stabbed out with his spear, and a tricolor True Dragon flew out, clashing with the huge wind blade. The air shook, and the wind blade and tricolor True Dragon both disappeared. So strong! Lu Ming's eyes sharpened. Although Lu Ming hadn't broken through to the Peak King realm yet, his battle strength was something that few kings could match. But now, the person above him had battle strength that wasn't any weaker than his. Could it be a Sea of Soul realm expert? No, he didn't feel the vast aura of a Sea of Soul realm expert, so it shouldn't be one. Who is it? Come out, you sneaky bastard! Lu Ming transformed into a beam of spear gleam and charged upward. He thrust his spear and a bright beam of spear gleam soared into the sky. Wang! At this moment, the air shook, and Lu Ming felt a terrifying power acting on his body. It was as if his weight had suddenly increased by dozens or even hundreds of times. However, it was different from gravity. Lu Ming felt a huge pressure on his body. It was as if he had fallen into a quagmire. Chi-chi, around him, the sound of air being torn apart could be heard. Countless wind blades tore through the air and sliced towards him. No, this wasn't a wind blade. Although it was similar, it was more mysterious and dangerous. Interesting. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile, and his aura became even stronger. Just now, Lu Ming hadn't used his full strength at all. His true yuan circulated rapidly, and 3 intents surrounded his body. 9 dragons trampling the sky. Lu Ming flipped over, and with his head down and feet up, he took 4 steps and rushed up. Boom! Boom! Heaven and earth went berserk and the space shook. That terrifying pressure was pierced through by Lu Ming. Lu Ming rushed up and pointed with his spear. Chapter 624. This woman had a peerless grace and was extremely beautiful. She was so beautiful that she could cause the downfall of cities and countries. She was wearing a black dress, revealing a pair of snow-white slender thighs, like the most beautiful piece of art carved by a deity. She blinked her big eyes and stared at Lu Ming without blinking. Xiao! Xiao Qing! At the sight of this lady, Lu Ming's heart skipped a few beats. Subsequently, he was elated. This beautiful woman was actually Xian Yanqing, who had disappeared for more than a year, almost 2 years. Now that she had appeared here, he almost thought that he was dreaming. Oh my, what a beautiful woman! The Dandan even forgot to chew the spiritual grass as he stared with his eyes wide open. Lu Ming, I thought I had left you far behind. Not bad, it's been a while since we last met. A crisp voice came out from Xian Yanqing's mouth. Xiao Qing, where have you been all this time? Lu Ming flew over. He was very shocked as well. He had already sensed that Xian Yanqing's cultivation had reached the peak martial emperor realm. That was too terrifying. During this period of time, Lu Ming had encountered many fortuitous encounters, especially in the heaven realm. He had obtained a large number of profound crystals. Coupled with the Enlightenment Ancient Tree, which was a heaven-defying item, Lu Ming's cultivation level had soared all the way to the peak of the 9th level Martial King realm. However, Xian Yanqing's cultivation was 1 layer higher than his, reaching the peak Martial Emperor realm. Furthermore, her strength was extremely terrifying, stronger than the sacred stars. Lu Ming did not use his full strength in the short exchange, but Xian Yanqing might not have used her full strength. How did she cultivate? What's wrong? Did you miss me? Xian Yanqing stared at Lu Ming with her big eyes, the corners of her mouth curling into a smile. Of course, we've been married for a long time. Of course I missed you when you suddenly disappeared. I couldn't even eat or sleep. Lu Ming said with a smile. Nonsense, who's been married for a long time? Humph, taking advantage of me as soon as we met. Xian Yanqing rolled her eyes at Lu Ming. Her smiling face blushed a little. However, deep in her eyes, there was joy. It had been a long time since they last met. Xiao Qing, tell me the truth, where have you been? Your cultivation has improved so much. If I hadn't worked hard, I would have been surpassed by you this time. Lu Ming asked curiously. Sigh. Xian Yanqing let out a sigh as she said with a complicated look, I went to a place I didn't want to go, so I found a chance to come out. Oh, did you miss me and come out to look for me? Lu Ming chuckled. Who's thinking about you? Dream on. Xian Yanqing blushed and glared at Lu Ming. Shameless, this guy is shameless. Pretty girl, don't listen to him, this guy always says that when he sees pretty girls. Dandan Dawn eyes rolled, Xian Yi angrily. This little tortoise. Lu Ming, when did you raise a little tortoise? It's quite cute, isn't it? Xian Yanqing looked at Dandan Dawn eyes. Ah, beautiful lady, listen carefully. I'm not an ordinary tortoise. I'm the leader of the top 10 battle beasts. My combat strength is peerless. I'm proficient in astronomy, geography, and the way of inscription. I can give you whatever you want. Coincidentally, I'm lacking a maid. Nestle, brat, what are you doing? Dandan Dawn hands behind its back, looking proud. Before it could finish its words, it was slapped back by Lu Ming. Boy, how dare you slap me? How dare you, I'll bite. Dandan glared at Lu Ming, bared its teeth, and suddenly pounced on Lu Ming, wanting to bite Lu Ming's finger. Lu Ming pinched Dandan's head and lifted it into the air. Dandan's short limbs kept struggling in the air, and its eyes were about to spit fire. Seeing that it was about time, Lu Ming put Dandan down. Ah, boy, you're finished. You're completely finished. How dare you pinch my head? You're finished. Dandan Dawn screamed non-stop. Sigh, I don't have any elixirs recently. I'll have to use them sparingly. Lu Ming sighed. Dandan Dawn screeching stopped abruptly. Its eyes were wide open, and its shell kept moving up and down. It was obviously angry. Huh, Xian Yanqing Dawn laughed. Your pet tortoise is really interesting. Xian Yanqing Dawn laughed. Beauty, I'm not a pet. I'm a top 10 battle. Before it could finish its words, Lu Ming took out a level 5 spiritual herb and threw it to Dandan Dawn to shut up. Xiao Qing, how did you find me? Lu Ming Dawn asked. It wasn't easy to find you. I first went to the East Branch Palace of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and sparred with that old man Mu Zheng. That old man was stubborn and didn't say anything at first. Later, Qian Fengyun recognized me, and that old man told me that you had returned to the Sun Empire. That's when I found Hua Qi told me that you were at the Lu family, so I went to the Lu family and coincidentally saw you here. Xian Yanqing Dawn explained. Lu Ming Dawn smiled bitterly and mourned for Mu Zheng. It seemed like Xian Yanqing Dawn had definitely messed things up in the East Branch Palace. Let's go back to the Lu family first. My parents miss you a lot. Lu Ming Dawn smiled faintly. What do your parents miss me for? Xian Yanqing Dawn lips curled up into a smile and her eyes were like autumn water. After 2 years, Xian Yanqing Dawn was almost 20 years old. She was even more beautiful than before. Her figure was amazing. She had lost some of her youthfulness and gained a mature charm. She was shockingly beautiful. She seemed to be even more beautiful than Mulan's and Autumn Moon. The two of them walked side by side and headed back to the Lu family. Lu Mingdan and Xian Yanqingdan landed in the courtyard of the Lu family head residence. "Father, Mother, I'm back," Lu Mingdan called out. "Ming is back." Two figures walked out of the room. They were Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. After more than 2 months, Lu Yuntian's cultivation had completely recovered to the martial Grand Master realm. Furthermore, he had surpassed his previous cultivation and his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. He had reached the rank 7 martial Grand Master realm. Destruction before re-establishment. Lu Yuntian's talent was originally very high. After experiencing so much over the years, his martial heart was strong and unwavering. His comprehension of the martial Tao was also very deep. His cultivation naturally improved at an astonishing rate. Moreover, just a few days ago, Lu Yuntian had comprehended the fire force. Lu Yuntian and Li Ping's gaze swept past Lu Mingdan and then landed on Xian Yanqingdan. The two of them were stunned at first, then they were overjoyed. "Miss Nianqing, it's Miss Nianqing," Li Ping called out. "Nianqing greets uncle and auntie. Congratulations to uncle for recovering your cultivation." Xian Yanqingdan bowed. She could naturally tell at a glance that Lu Yuntian's cultivation had already recovered. "Ha ha ha, Miss Nianqing, there's no need to be so polite. It's been a long time. I'll get someone to prepare a banquet to welcome Miss Nianqing back." Lu Yuntian laughed. "Thank you, uncle," Xian Yanqingdan said. Why are you so polite this time?" Lu Mingdan looked at Xian Yanqingdan in surprise. She had never been so polite before. Xian Yanqingdan's face turned slightly red. She glared at Lu Ming and said, "It's none of your business." "Huh." Lu Yuntian laughed. Li Ping's eyes scanned Xian Yanqingdan's body, looking very satisfied. Chapter 625. A day later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stood side by side on Emerald Cloud Peak outside Windy Fire City. "Lu Ming, what are your plans after this?" Xian Yanqing asked. "How about leaving Tianxian Domain and going to a wider world to train and cultivate? Do you want to come with me?" Lu Ming's eyes were deep and seemed to be able to penetrate space. He looked into the distance and his eyes were filled with anticipation. Tianxian Domain was too small after all. The outside world was more exciting. Tianxian Domain only had one Saint Star on the list of top 1,000 talents in Eastern Wilderness, and it was ranked last. What about the other geniuses? How powerful were they? How powerful were they? Lu Ming wanted very much to see if he could clash with those unparalleled geniuses so that he could become stronger. Upon hearing Lu Ming's words, the corners of Xian Yanqing's lips curled up slightly. There was a smile on her face as she said, "Sure, of course I want to be with you. I haven't fulfilled my promise to myself back then." "Promise? What promise?" Lu Ming asked curiously. "To defeat you and trample you under my feet, of course. You can't run away." Xian Yanqing chuckled. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. This girl still remembers that. How long has it been? It seems that this woman is really petty. She's too vengeful. Lu Ming muttered to himself. However, he still felt a sense of urgency. Xian Yanqing's improvement was too shocking. If he was slower, he would be surpassed by Xian Yanqing. Furthermore, during the time that Xian Yanqing had disappeared, the martial skill that he had cultivated had undergone some changes. It seemed to have become even more shocking. Where did she go? Did she break into a secret place or go back to her own home? If she went back to her own home, then her family background is amazing. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and pondered. However, Xian Yanqing obviously didn't want to talk about her family background, so he didn't ask. "What are you looking at?" Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at him. Then, his eyes flashed as if he had thought of something. He asked, "Lu Ming, have you found the secret of the martial emperor's treasure that your father mentioned? Are you talking about this?" A jade sword the length of a finger appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up. A jade sword the length of a finger also appeared in his hand. It was almost the same as the one in Lu Ming's hand. Wang! Wang! The two infused their quintessence at the same time. The jade swords lit up, and a map appeared on each of the jade swords. On the map, there was a route that led to a destination. Both of them had the same destination. It seems like there are quite a lot of these jade swords. Lu Ming said. As far as I know, this jade sword should be the key to the martial emperor's treasure. There should be 9 of them, and they should be scattered all over the eastern wasteland. Only by gathering all 9 of them can one find the martial emperor's treasure. Xian Yanqing said. 9, then we only have 2. It seems like there's no hope for the martial emperor's treasure. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. No, 9. 8 have already appeared. Xian Yanqing said. 8 of them have appeared? How do you know? Lu Ming asked curiously. Lu Ming, didn't you study this jade sword when you got it? Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming speechlessly. Ahem, I didn't study it much. Lu Ming coughed awkwardly. He really didn't study it much. Previously, he had focused on improving his cultivation to defeat the sacred star. Later, he focused on studying the inscription Dao, so he really didn't study this jade sword. Xian Yanqing glanced at Lu Ming speechlessly and said, Look, don't you see a few faint inscriptions on the hilt of this jade sword? Lu Ming looked at it carefully and really saw some faint inscriptions. There are a total of 9 inscriptions on it. They represent 9 keys. Right now, 8 of them are flickering with light. That means that 8 keys have appeared and landed in different people's hands. And this map points to the destination, which is in the chaotic astral ocean. I guess the other people who have the keys will definitely go to the chaotic astral ocean. How about going directly to the chaotic astral ocean? Xian Yanqing said. Chaotic astral ocean? Lu Ming's eyes moved. The chaotic astral ocean was extremely famous in the eastern wasteland. It was a vast inland sea, more than 10 times bigger than the Tianxian domain. In the chaotic astral ocean, there were islands dotted with stars. Countless martial experts resided in that sea area. From the name, one could tell that the chaotic astral ocean referred to this inland sea area, which was extremely chaotic and where countless vicious people gathered. This was because this was neither the territory of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, nor the Heavenly Corpse sect, nor the Heavenly Monster Valley. It was difficult for the several overlord forces to conquer this place. Therefore, all the experts who offended these overlord forces hid in the chaotic astral ocean, and no one could find them. In addition, there were countless large and small forces in the chaotic astral ocean, causing this area to be extremely chaotic and full of killing. It was common for people to draw their swords and kill people because of a disagreement. You're not afraid, are you? Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming with a faint smile. Lu Ming smiled and said, The chaotic astral ocean is exactly what I want. Lu Ming had the 9 dragons bloodline, so this place was most suitable for him. Okay, then when do you plan to set off? In 2 days, we'll set off. It had been a few months since they returned. It was time to leave. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing bade farewell to Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. Although the couple was reluctant, they were happy that Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming were going out on an adventure together. Only by going out together could they quickly develop feelings for each other, right? Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 beams of light streaked across the sky and disappeared into the horizon. The 2's speed was unbelievably fast. After a few days, they arrived at Tianxian City. With Lu Ming's current reputation, it was not easy for him to take the inter-province transportation formation. 2 days later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stepped onto the inter-province transportation formation. The inter-province transportation formation formed a huge whirlpool. With a flash of light, the 2 disappeared from the altar. The Yunfeng domain was a large domain near the chaotic astral ocean. It was extremely vast. However, the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace was not the only force in this large domain. A few powerful forces had established their forces here, such as the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, the Sky Corpse Sect, and the Sky Demon Valley. They had also built inter-province transportation formations. To go to the chaotic astral ocean, one had to first teleport here and then fly to the chaotic astral ocean. However, before Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing went to the chaotic astral ocean, there was one more thing that they had to do. To be precise, Xian Yanqing had to seize a treasure from one of the forces in the Yunfeng domain. The inter-province transportation formation in the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace of the Yunfeng domain flashed and two figures appeared. They were Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Nestle, the cost is too expensive. Lu Ming cried out in pain. The Tianxian domain and the Yunfeng domain were 23 large domains apart. The cost of the transportation was 1,500,000 supreme spiritual crystals per person. The two of them cost a total of 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. In order to show his manliness, Lu Ming naturally paid out of his own pocket. In the end, he was heartbroken. Now, he was only left with more than 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. It seems like I have to find a way to get some supreme spiritual crystals. Otherwise, I won't even have enough to use, let alone become a peak king. Chapter 626. The two of them left the territory of the Emperor Sky Divine Palace and turned into two rays of light, heading towards the west. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was extremely famous in the Yunfeng domain. It was one of the most famous forces besides the Emperor Sky Divine Palace. This force mainly focused on alchemy. They were very famous for their alchemy skills, and the elixirs that they refined were highly sought after. Most importantly, the reputation of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was very good. Every month, the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution would open its doors. Martial artists who liked alchemy could enter the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution and study there for 3 months. During these 3 months, the alchemy experts of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution would impart their experience and skills. All of this was free of charge. It was also because of this that the Cloud Sea Pill Institution was able to survive under the influence of the other overlords. Moreover, they were living a comfortable life, and their strength was getting stronger and stronger. Their goal was to go to the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution and seize one of their treasures, the Heavenly Demon Fruit. Cough, cough. It doesn't seem right for us to seize other people's treasures for no reason. On the way, Lu Ming coughed a few times. Lu Ming was quite principled. Unless it was an enemy, he wouldn't seize other people's treasures for no reason. Moreover, this force had a good reputation. I'm getting rid of evil for the people. Do you really think that the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution is as good as the rumors say? Those are just tricks that the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution use to deceive the world. I've already investigated it. The things that the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution does in the dark are infuriating and outrageous. Xian Yanqing said as a cold light flashed in his eyes. What do you mean? Lu Ming asked. Come with me. I'll bring you to have a look. Xian Yanqing said. The two of them flew for a few days. They had already reached the territory of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. The two of them landed in the mountain range and walked forward. There was a small town in front of them. Most of the people living there were ordinary people, but there were a few low-level martial artists. The two of them strolled around the town. How is it? Did you see anything? Xian Yanqing asked. Lu Ming swept his gaze across, his frown deepening. The people in this town are very strange. Most of them have low blood and qi, especially the children. Lu Ming said. That's right. Do you know why? Xian Yanqing asked. There was a flash of light in Lu Ming's eyes. During this period of time, he had made great progress in his inscription Dao. Naturally, his judgment was different. He thought of one possibility. Before Lu Ming could say anything, Xian Yanqing had already explained, that's because the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution often come here and secretly extract the innate blood and qi of the babies. When the babies are born, the chi of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution isn't heavy. The innate blood and chi are the most useful. They use the innate blood and chi to refine pills. This causes the babies whose innate blood and chi of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution to grow up with insufficient chi of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution. However, for the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution, living to the age of 30 is already enough, because they have already married and had children. Their children will also end up in the same situation. Perhaps, in the eyes of the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution, ordinary people are just some animals that they have raised. Perhaps, in the eyes of the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution, these people are just some human-shaped elixirs. Livestock? Human-shaped elixirs? Lu Ming's heart trembled. A cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. If that was the case, then the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution were simply a bunch of greedy demons. It's not just this small town. Within 1,000,000 miles of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution, all the small towns and villages that are slightly more remote are in a similar situation. Most of these villagers are ordinary people. The strongest are only martial warrior level martialists who have never traveled too far in their lives. They still think that a person's lifespan is around 30 years old. Xie Nianqing smiled coldly. Lu Ming's face was gloomy. These people could obviously live to 80 or 90 years old. However, their innate blood and chi of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution had been extracted when they were babies. Their lifespan was greatly reduced and they thought that they could only live to 30 years old. How sad was that? The Cloud Sea Elixir institution is doing far more than this. They use the blood and chi of the babies to refine pills and then sell them at a high price to martial artists in the chaotic astral ocean who practice evil cultivation techniques. They make a huge profit. Xie Nianqing explained. It seemed that he had investigated the Cloud Sea Elixir institution very thoroughly. Let's go. I'd like to meet the Cloud Sea Elixir institution. The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes had disappeared. However, his tone was extremely cold. The Cloud Sea Elixir institution was located on a majestic mountain range. The place was grand and majestic. Spiritual chi was dense, and it was as beautiful as a fairyland. The Cloud Sea Elixir institution was actually a family called the Yun family. Because they often opened their doors and imparted alchemy techniques to others, it was called the Cloud Sea Elixir institution. It was said that the head of the Yun family was a Sea of Soul Realm Almighty. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing naturally couldn't just kill their way in. They planned to sneak in and check out the situation first. Over the past few days, the Cloud Sea City in front of the Cloud Sea Elixir institution had become lively. This was because the Cloud Sea Elixir institution opened their doors every month to impart alchemy techniques. Martial artists from all over the Cloud Peak region who were interested in alchemy gathered there. There were even people from other regions. The two of them came at the right time. Tomorrow was the day when the Cloud Sea Elixir institution opened their doors. The two of them strolled around the city. Along the way, they attracted the attention of passers-by. It was mainly because of Xie Nianqing's beauty. Such a peerless beauty was rare in the world. Miss, are you going to enter the Cloud Sea Elixir institution to learn alchemy as well? A handsome young man with a slender figure walked over and asked with a smile. His eyes were fixed on Xie Nianqing, revealing a trace of passion. Xie Nianqing glanced at him with a cold expression and didn't answer. Miss, I'm Gu Huaxiu, the young master of the Gu family. This should be your first time in Cloud Sea City, right? If you don't mind, I'm willing to show you around the city. The young man continued and reported his family background. His eyes were fixed on Xie Nianqing. As for Lu Ming, he directly ignored him. Get lost. Xie Nianqing frowned and spat out coldly. Gu Huaxiu's face instantly darkened. Xie Nianqing actually told him to get lost? No woman had ever dared to speak to him like that. Gu Huaxiu flicked his sleeve and strode away. Before he left, he glanced at Lu Ming with killing intent. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He was completely speechless. He hadn't even said a word and was directly implicated. However, he knew Xian Yanqing. When the young man came over to greet them, he knew that this would be the outcome. The two of them continued to stroll around for a while and found a restaurant to have a meal. After that, they found an inn to rest in. The next day, it was time for the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution to open their doors. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing left Cloud Sea City and headed to the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. It was very simple to enter the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. All they had to do was fill in the basic information and they could enter.